Greetings, I am Shannon Register, and I'm actually going to problem solve F. So I'm going to show you my thinking and my reasoning and problem solving with problem F. So when I first looked at F, I see that I have two circles here, and then I have five circles here, and then I have 10 here, and I have a total of 17. So I first wanted to write out how many circles I had in all. So I started out with 2, and then it was 5, 10, and then 17. So as I look at the number of circles, I want to think, what is that in relation to squares? Or what is that in relation to my ends? And so I realized that here I didn't see any type of square, but here I see a square, which is really going to be 2 squared, and then I see a plus 1. Here I also see a square, and then I see a plus 1, and then I see a square here and a plus 1. So as I'm looking at that, I wrote out, okay, maybe my total would be n squared plus 1. Okay, so that was my thinking. And so I said, well, let me go in and plug in numbers to see if this actually will work. So n equal 1, I should come out with 2. So when I plug in a 1, 1 squared plus 1 gave me 2. All right, so then I said n equal 2. So if I plug in a 2 here, that's going to give me 2 squared plus 1, which is going to end up with 5. And then if I plug in a 3, n3, if I plug in a 3 here, 3 squared plus 1, that's going to give me 9 plus 1. I'll end up with 10. So now I realize that n squared plus 1 is my total. And so now I wanted to look at my white circles, okay? And then I want to see what is the pattern with my white circles. So I see I have a total of 2. Next I have a 3. Then I have 4. And then I have 5. So as I look at those numbers, I try to see 2, 3, 4, 5. What is this in relation to my n? So you know I have an n equal 1, n equal 2, n equal 3, n equal 4. And so then I realized that the relationship between my n equal 1 and 2 is a plus 1. All right, so if I add 1 here, I will end up with 2. I realized here n equals 2. If I add 1, I have 3. And the same here, if I have a 3 and add 1, I will have a 4 and so forth. So then I realized that n plus 1 would be my pattern for the white. So now I look to say, okay, now for my black circles, what would be my total for the black circles? So I started out here with 0, and I have 2. And then as I look, I have 6. And then when I look here, I have 12. So now I see my pattern. I'm thinking to myself, what is the relationship of my pattern to my n values? So I'll see n equal 1. Okay, I have a 0. Okay, so if I add 1, then I see n equal 2. And it come out with 2. So it look like those are equal. Then I have n equal 3. And if I maybe double that, I could get a 6. And then I have a n equal 4. If I multiply that by 3, I will end up with 12. So then at this point, what I want to do is look at my circles. All right, so I know I have no black circles here. Here I have 2 black circles, but when I look at this square, I realize it's really maybe a half a square. Or maybe I could say n squared minus 2. Okay, so if I look over here and I see this square, maybe I can say n squared because this is a square, and then minus 3. Because if you notice what I'm doing, I'm ignoring this plus 1, this extra circle there. So I'm going to go with that theory. I don't know about when n equals 1 yet. I don't have anything for that. But here I could say 2 squared minus 2. And then for this one, I'm looking at 3 squared, because we know that 3 squared will give me 9 here. But then I have to subtract 3. So I could say 3 squared minus 3. That's going to give me my 6. And then to get 12 here, I could say 4 squared, and then I have to subtract 4. So I could say 4 squared, subtract 4. Because if I go back and add these, subtract these numbers, I should get a 2 here. So now I'm trying to think, well, if I follow this same pattern, I should end up with a 1 squared minus 1 to end up with a 0. So it looks like my pattern for the black would be n squared minus n. So now what I want to do is look at all of it. So I know my white plus black equal my total. And remember, in my thinking, I started out and figured out my total first. And I figured out my total based off of my squares with the circles. So my white would be n plus 1. Okay, because my white came out to n plus 1. My black is n squared minus n. So I say plus my black, which is n squared minus n, equal my total. And remember, I came out with my total first, which is n squared plus 1. And so here I'm just simply adding these together, and hopefully both sides will come out to be equal. So now I'm going to combine like terms so that I can simplify. So I know n squared. And here I have an n. And then I have a negative n or minus n. So that those cancel out. And I'm left with a plus 1, which equals n squared plus 1. All right, so I found my overall pattern, which was n squared plus 1. Then I went back and I found my white, my black, and then just to prove white plus black equal total, then I came out to show that that would be my patterns. Thank you.